Raw, full TV. What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. All right. So before I get into this video, shout out to the brother Sheldon Lamey for the $10 donation via the PayPal, and he wanted me to speak on this situation involving Enes Kanter and the Wnba. And I've been kind of avoiding talking about this because, in my opinion, on YouTube we cannot have a real conversation about this. You know, it's just one of the few subject matters that I've found that we can't really have an honest and frank discussion about this. We have to tiptoe around certain people's feelings, certain groups' feelings when it comes to this, right? So I'm gonna come at. This is how I'm gonna do this. On YouTube, when I talk about this topic, I'm gonna have to be very professional. I'm gonna have to try to be fair, and I'm gonna have to talk in code a lot of times, right? I know some of you guys aren't used to YouTube code. Some of you younger subscribers. Um, that's why I strongly advise many of my subscribers to come over to the Rumble, because on Rumble, at least for the time being, and it's free, I can speak on a lot of these subjects in more frank and in a more frank and honest way. And for those of you like, man, why don't you just say what you can't do it on YouTube, man? I'm not going to destroy because of my ego or because of my pride. I'm not going to destroy what I've taken a dozen years to build on YouTube with all of the things going against me on here already. I'm not going to throw my channel away off of one or two videos or one particular subject matter. So look, let me give a brief little, I guess, synopsis of what's been going on. So it was an interview that was released a couple of weeks ago with Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever. And the person who was interviewing her asked her about trans athletes performing in the WNBA. And Cunningham said that she believes that trans athletes should not be competing against biological women in sports. That it's unfair. That it's an unfair advantage for the trans athletes. Okay? So that came out. That particular excerpt came out. It went viral. One side obviously agreed with her. Another side called her transphobic and said that she was wrong. But she doubled down on it when asked about it again. And she hasn't wavered. So this brought up a renewed conversation about trans athletes playing in the WNBA. All right? So enter Gabby Williams of the WNBA. She's a WNBA star. And she came out and said that she's for women competing in the trans women competing in the WNBA, right? So this brought up a new wave of discussion involving this topic. And both sides are determined that their side is the correct side, and both sides are determined to win this battle. Okay? I predicted this a couple of years ago. I said in videos, talking about the WNBA, that it's going to come to this. And my sinuses are bothering me if you hear me sniffing a couple of times. I told you this was going to happen, that they're, they're going to try to push this for the WNBA. And ultimately, they might even try for the NBA. So, look, Enes Kanter, that's why I have him featured here, came out, I think it was 2 days ago, and said that he's going to enter the 2027 WNBA draft. All right. Then just yesterday, you had Royce White, former NBA player, saying that he now identifies as transgender and that he's going to come out and try to uh, play the WNBA, right? Now, both of these dudes to me are trolls, okay? I don't really have much regard for either one of these dudes. Some people are trying to praise these guys as geniuses or heroes. At the end of the day, I think they're trolls that are grifting for a certain demographic, or for a certain demographic. They're doing this for likes, clicks, views, whatever, right? And I find it hypocritical that you're I, you're trying to prove a point. Like you're trying to prove that a certain group is hypocritical, right? And I have my personal views about that, right? And I'll hint to it in the video, right? I have my personal views. You know, am I saying that? I think a lot of these people are full of shit. You know, am I saying that? Well, I'm not. I'm not gonna come out right say it, but am I saying that I think that only biological women should participate in WNBA and that they should have their own league? You know, well, that needs to be determined. But anyway, I think these guys are grifters, and that they're trying to grift toward a right wing element that doesn't want this to happen. And am I saying that these people are wrong? No, I'm not saying they're wrong at all. But these people never be taken seriously. You're not going to be a martyr for this cause. You're not going to be a hero for this cause. If it was Cooper Flag or somebody like that, it'll be portrayed a certain way. You guys are just going to be clowns. You're just entertainment fodder. That's why Royce White, you've never been elected to any damn thing you've ever run for. No matter how much you pander to that element. Much like how Victor Ramaswamy, Vivek Ramaswamy, excuse me, will never be elected to any goddamn thing because the element that he's pandering for will never accept you. So to me, you guys are clowns. Just like Enes Kanter. Now, what he says about LeBron James, I agree with 100%. But the element that you're pandering for that crowd, they hate LeBron for a different reason than what we don't like LeBron for. And they hate you for it as well. So they'll never accept you. About the WNBA, right? So, for what I could see, to be eligible for the WNBA draft, you must be at least 22 years old, have graduated from a 4-year college, or have been 4 years removed from high school, or international players must be at least 20 years of age. U.S. players have to turn 22 years old during the calendar year of the draft and renounce any remaining NCAA eligibility by written notice to the NBA within a specific time frame. And that's about it. Except in the recent collective bargaining agreement, it is confirmed that you must be a female. The question is, what do you consider a female? Now, if you want my honest opinion on this, I believe that a female is someone who's born genetically a woman. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Women do not have prostates. Okay? Women are usually born with the internal organs which allow them to carry babies and become pregnant. And that's just my personal belief. I think anything else is not what we would call biologically a female. But that's just my personal belief. Okay? So I'm not going to go further than that because this is YouTube and you got to be real careful how you talk about this. So I'm giving my answer. As far as the argument for the other side, as far as, well, look, um, these people identify as female, what have you. Um, Look, my counter to that is, because I see some people who are for it, they'll say, well, look, what about a woman who is 6'10", 250 pounds? She has a size advantage. True. As long as she's not taking performance enhancing drugs, she is still a biological woman. Even a person who has, in my transition, in my opinion, they still have much more upper body strength. They're just naturally stronger. They have faster, what you call it, muscle twitch. They tend to be more athletic than women. You could just see in how women play versus men play. To go up and tomahawk dunk, that requires a much more upper body strength and athleticism. Athletic men have it in spades. Athletic women can't really do those types of things. So it's going to, in essence, in my opinion, if you allow this, it's going to lead to a lot of women not having a place in the WNBA, and you're going to have many athletes who are, let's say, mediocre male athletes crossing over and transitioning and becoming superstar WNBA athletes. Because let's get to the meat of the coconut here. The motivation isn't for a cause with some of these people. The motivation is money. The motivation is a paycheck. They see what Caitlin Clark's doing, right? Let's just say that. They see how Caitlin Clark, who is a talented player, but she has a certain group that pushes her to uh, unprecedented financial success, right? Now imagine if you're a special interest group and you say, well, man, if we could get one of somebody that we could push into that league and we could make it possible for our person to get into this league, they will dominate. They're going to be the Wilt Chamberlain of the WNBA. If we can get somebody that's 6'10", 240 pounds, but, have them go through the proper steps so that they will be able to be one of them, then that's how some more people, more of these male athletes who have, you know, were mediocre as far as being in the pro leagues. Well, against women, they'll dominate. That's just, a possibility, and that's what I tend to see. That's what they want to try. And by the way, if you don't think it's an advantage, right, why is it that PEDs are banned from sports? Why are PEDs banned from sports? Because it gives the athletes who take them a competitive advantage. But you don't think it's going to be a competitive advantage for trans athletes to compete against biological women? So are we being this intellectually dishonest? Now, if Enes Kanter or Royce White were denied eligibility by the WNBA, would they win in a legal lawsuit? It's hard for me to see them winning because, I mean, nobody would look at them, Royce White and Enes Kanter, and say that they should be reasonably looked upon as women. I don't see how you could win that argument. You know what I'm saying? Like they're males. They're not even individuals that look like they've even transitioned. If they go that far with it, then you lose all respect and all credibility in right wing circles. The little bit you have left. So no, I don't think they'll win a legal argument. I think like those guys are just sideshows. But if we ever get an actual person who has transitioned, a transformer, if you want to call it that, and they perform in the WNBA or they're trying to get in the WNBA, well, does this go to the Supreme Court? Because I would assume a case like this would go to the Supreme Court, and being that the Supreme Court is a conservative court, and plus, this is a very, very tricky situation. It's hard to say, man, because I would think a conservative court would rule on the status, the traditional, will go the traditional route and rule against it. But there are some powerful special interest forces involved when it comes to this situation, which is why I always suspected something like this was going to happen eventually. So I don't know, man, but I really feel for women's sports right now, and that's why the Trump administration and some others, obviously, right. While I don't agree with almost any fucking thing that they have uh, passed legislatively wise or things they stand for, well, I'll tell you what, I'll leave that alone because it's YouTube, right? I'll leave that alone. But this is a crazy issue, man. This is crazy. Like I said, on YouTube, it's hard to talk about this. It's hard to talk about this, but I will say this in my video. If women are not careful, they're going to have their league taken away from them, and I'm not going to play Superman trying to save them. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.